Video for business. And we have a few more people joining in, but we can get started here. So please hold on a few more seconds here before we get going. Let me do something here. All right, well, let me get started here. Welcome to our webinar today. Before we get started with today's presentation, I'd like to share a few facts with you about SCORE. Okay, so we are a 501(c) nonprofit volunteer organization and a resource partner to the Small Business Administration, or SBA. Okay, and we have about 11,000 volunteers organized throughout 300 chapters nationwide, and we're part of the North Metro Atlanta SCORE chapter. Our chapter operates in Cobb, North Fulton, Forsyth, and Gwinnett counties, and we typically provide mentoring in about 17 locations with about 70 or 80 mentors. Currently, because of COVID lockdown, all our mentoring is done virtually, and we are either providing it via Zoom, video conferencing, or via telephone. Additionally, we hold about 46 workshops like this one a month. So if you go to our website, northmetroatlanta.score.org, you can see our schedule for the month, and we have typically 4 to 6 workshops. SCORE's mission is to help small businesses to succeed by providing online templates, checklists, and webinars at score.org. Locally, we provide workshops and business advice to entrepreneurs for startups and nascent businesses. All our services are free or carry a nominal fee. Now, before we get started, there's a few housekeeping notices for you. You're all muted, so please ask questions via the Q&A box in your meeting control panel. Q&A and chat are not the same. Please use the Q&A box if you can. We will try to answer as many of your questions as possible at the end of the presentation, but keep sending them in. I'll keep logging them. And Zachary, our presenter, will answer them at the end of today's presentation. At the end of this workshop, you will have the opportunity to request a SCORE mentor to further assist you. Now, please don't forget to provide your feedback of today's workshop by clicking the link after you exit the webinar. In return, we will be able to send you a copy of today's resource material that Zachary will be using in his presentation. Now, let me introduce Zachary Bennett. He is the principal behind Reformation Productions, a full-service marketing agency located in Gwinnett. Zachary comes with a 20-year career in marketing and advertising, and he's working with a lot of major companies in the area. Since starting his own boutique agency and providing his marketing expertise and skills to Reformation Production clients, he has dedicated his time and efforts to the pursuit of helping educate business professionals on the ways that marketing process has been perfected by Fortune 500 companies, bringing his experience to local and regional companies in ways that they can afford. As a speaker, he provides lectures and interactive workshops throughout the South. Reformation Productions is dedicated to helping companies market their business in the most effective and efficient ways possible with a process used by Fortune 500 companies called straight line marketing. Find out more about the agency at www.reformationproductions.com. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Zachary and welcome him to this webinar, and we look forward to learning about the power of video for your business. Welcome, Zachary, and please take it away.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for coming. Let's start with a question. Does everyone know who this guy is? Yes, this is Michael J. Fox. Now, have you ever wondered what the J was for? His middle name, is it, Justin or James? No, it's Andrew. So what's with the J? Well, in the 80s, there was a database of all working actors, and in that database was this guy. This is Michael Fox. So Mr. Teen Wolf here added the J to make his profile easier to identify and easier to find. Well, in today's age, Google is our database. And if you search for Zachary Bennett, you will find this guy. And as much as I would like to be a Canadian actor born in 1980, I am not. So that is why if you want to search for me, you have to use the B Zachary Bennett. However, B is my initial, it's my first initial, unlike Mr. Fox. And you will see that I use my full name, including the first initial, to identify where I am on the internet. So important to note, in case you like what you hear today and you want to hear more or follow my content online. So B Zachary Bennett. Now, I've told you how to find me, but before I tell you a bit about what I do and why I'm here, I want you to tell me a little bit about you. So Mark's going to put up a poll for me. If you could answer that, tell me a little bit about you and your business life. Let me get that out of my way.
All right, here we got the first poll up. So tell me about your business life, and I'm going to leave this poll open for a little bit until we get no more responses, and then publish the results and share them with you.
Okay, good. It just gives me a better idea of who I'm talking to in the audience today, so that I can kind of tailor what it is that I'm talking about specifically to you guys. So now, who am I? Why am I here to talk to you? And what authority do I have to be able to talk to you about how to run your business? I am a marketing executive or business communications executive, like Mark had said, with over 25 years of experience helping businesses just like you to best communicate themselves to their audiences. I started with big corporations and then refocused my efforts towards smaller businesses about 10 years ago. Now, I am the president of an Atlanta-based marketing agency, and in that role, I handle creative, determining brands and campaigns. I lead the design team here. I'm also involved in consumer research, where we develop targeted consumer profiles, and I lead the research teams through that. As far as strategy goes, I help to determine how and where companies should be communicating in the marketplace based on who they are and who their target customers are. And I also act as a consultant. I do one-on-one consulting. I'm a business coach to many businesses, and I also offer outsourced CMO services. So I'm chief marketing officer to several different corporations around the Atlanta area. So that's my day job, how I feed my family, the family of my employees, etc. But aside from that, I am also a frequent keynote speaker for various associations, workshops for corporations, the SBDC, Chambers of Commerce. I'm also an official partner with SCORE here. I do lots of workshops for them. And I am also a published author. I wrote Married to Marketing, which is a comparative analysis between building human relationships and business consumer relationships. And I host a podcast called Straight Shot. Straight Shot provides tips and advice and observations based on case studies that we present during the show. And we answer questions that our listening audience puts forth to us, study different things that I can kind of answer from my experience in the industry. I am pleased to announce that we were recently nominated for the Best Support System by the Gwinnett Small Business Award. So that's a nice thing too. But why do I do all of these extra things in addition to my day job? Well, it's philosophical, really. I believe that knowledge is power. And I believe that an enlightened business owner makes a better business owner. I believe in free enterprise and pure capitalism, the freedom of destiny. People can make and buy things based on choice and preference. You can be whomever you want to if you work hard enough and put in the time and the investment, which all of that is to say that I believe in and subscribe to the American dream. To that end, I support the community of business owners because they contribute to our economy as a society. They provide for their families and they employ others and provide for their families, all through realizing their dreams. So you say, Zachary, how romantic. You sound like a business owner. Yes, I started Reformation Productions as a way to provide the business community with the marketing expertise and services that have been provided to Fortune 500 companies in ways that they could understand and afford. So yes, I am one of you. I am a member of the business community. But that's enough about me. Now, today, what are we going to be talking about? Well, today we are talking about harnessing the power of video for business. Within these areas, I hope to cover everything that you've been promised about this subject. But if you have any questions, like Mark said, put them in the Q&A box and I will answer them at the end of the webinar. If for some reason I do not get to them during the broadcast today, I will be answering them and letting you know via email. So make sure the email that you're registered with in today's event is the one that you actually receive email through. If not, let Mark know through chat, private message, however that's going to work, so that we have an actual working email for you. The topics that we're going to go through today: why video is important for business, what are ways to use video in business, is it cost effective, how to use it, when to use it, what are some best practices that we use in the industry as far as video goes, and then what can we see in the future. Future-proofing your business is a big thing that companies do to enable themselves for success. So I'll tell you, I start big picture to answer a lot of the why, and then I get to the nitty-gritty of how as we move along. So I do that to make sure that everybody, regardless of their experience level, is all on the same page by the time I get to the more actionable details. So don't get impatient, leave, hang in there. Be fair to all the others that are on the broadcast today. I will try to make it as informative and entertaining for you as possible, but let's get started.
All right, Zachary, let me share the results of the first poll.
Sure.
All right, here you go, Zachary.
All right, good. So it looks like most of you have a functioning business already. That's good. Some of you are starting an additional business as well. Good. All right. Thank you, Mark. Okay, so why is video so important? Well, first off, to state the obvious, video is very popular. Our agency does a lot of video work of all different types. And so we will talk about a lot of what those types are today. Now, you don't just have to take my word on the fact that video is popular. The Wazao report for 2020 supports what we have been seeing here. 25% growth in businesses using video since 2016. 85% of all businesses have started utilizing video in communicating their business with their public. Now, largely that's because their consumers are watching 52% more online video than they did in 2018. So that's quite the growth margin. And 86% of people actually want to see businesses put out more video and utilize more video in what they are doing. Now, there are tons of stats. You can Google them all to get more information but they all support the things that I am telling you here today. People enjoy and are consuming video as a preferred method of communication. Now, I will go ahead and call out two specifically. Curiously, 19% of people are more inclined to open an email if the subject indicates that it includes video. And as many of you know, Google owns YouTube. So the likelihood of being on page one is 50% higher if that page on your website includes a video. This is why I recommend hosting all of your videos on YouTube's platform, all of your website videos. So there's your first actionable advice. You didn't have to wait too long, did you? So host website videos on YouTube in order to help you with Google in SEO for your site. Now, I believe Mark is going to put up another poll for me. I'm asking you to tell me how you are using video for your business, or if you're not using video for your business. Again, helps me to know your experience level, helps me know who I am talking to as a whole. So the different ways that you use video, click those. If you haven't, indicate that. That'll be great. All right.
All right. Please provide your answers in the poll here. I'll leave it open for a little bit longer before I share the results. So I got some responses coming in.
Okay, good.
All right. I think I'll close the poll and share the results. All right. Here we go.
All righty. Pretty split. I would say the biggest percentage of you haven't used video yet. So this is going to be very good for you. Some people use it for live streaming. I see Facebook, Instagram, social media advertising. Interesting. Good. All right. So aside from its popularity and its relationship with email or SEO that I just mentioned, the number one reason why video is important for business is not that it's important. It's that it is effective. So content is important. Your story is important. The details that you have to convey, those things are important. Video is just one of the easiest ways to engage an audience and connect with them via emotion. An image, picture, graphic is more impactful than text. Video is even more impactful than pictures. People like pictures, graphics, because they don't like to read. They just don't. You've heard that a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, video is made up of 24 pictures per second, sometimes more. It's often referred to as moving pictures. So you can get a lot more information conveyed via video than in a single frame. You can also change locations, change subjects, add music to it in order to invoke more of an emotional context, that sort of thing. Now, let's look at an example. What does this photo tell you? What does it tell you? What does it not tell you? What is she thinking? What is he thinking? Or what is he feeling? Is he upset? Is she upset? They aren't touching each other. Can you tell what their personalities are? What are they like as people? Why are they out there on the beach all alone? To me, this looks serious. It looks heavy. It looks like a very pensive situation. Now, if we take a look at it as video, now you can see that she is playful. He's laughing at her. He's enjoying her. You see much more and get a much better context communicated in video than in the single picture frame. Even clarification, it's actually the opposite of what we had imagined in the single picture. It's like texting versus having a phone call. When you're texting, you can't tell the emotion or the tone of what's being said. And it's just much easier to pick up the telephone or talk to somebody in person so that you can read their face, read their inflections, can tell what their emotions are, and really know what they're trying to say rather than text. Video is much the same way. All right, so video is effective. It works. It is a better communicator. It's also an excellent storytelling medium, whether you're using it to reposition your brand or to generate awareness. It's often used as the hero piece of content. That's the main piece that's going to drive customers to your website in order to discover more. It may also drive people, if you have a brick and mortar store, it could drive people to your doorstep in order to discover more. It is what is creating awareness and interest in your business. Now, on the website, in order to convey story in an all-encompassing and entertaining way, businesses use video because, again, the same reasons that we discussed before. They're more entertaining than pictures, and definitely a lot better than text. People just don't, times have changed. People don't read as much as they did before. They may scan it, they may skim it, but they'd much rather prefer video, as we saw in some of the stats that we discussed before. Now, let's talk about the benefits of adding emotion in the use of video. Video engages 3 out of the senses, right? Sight, sound, that's you're hearing, an emotion, that's empathy, through the use of music, inflection, movement, speaking tone. So it gives you a lot more communication tools for you to communicate with your people and more ways for them to take in that communication and understand it as well. Now, 4D, 5D theaters, they add smell and touch to video experiences. We're not quite there yet with the internet, but next to being in person, video is the most communicative medium that we have available today. So let's talk about the wheres and whys of using video. Video can now be seen in more places than it was ever seen before. It used to be that you saw video on television, you saw it in the movie theaters, and that was the only place that you saw it, depending on how old you are. I am Gen X, so that was my experience growing up. And while TVs are still great for mass awareness, the reality that we live in is that there are hundreds of different channels, different ways to consume video every day for either news or gathering information. Websites is a main one. People use video on their websites, again, to help with SEO. It's also a way to communicate that your brand is more contemporary, not antiquated. A lot of times now people will go to a website, and if it's just text or graphics even, it's considered less than, because that's not the way that websites are designed anymore. It's also, again, more communicative, as we had mentioned. It provides a better user experience for the visitors and the customers that go there. Another way, social media. Again, video is favored by people on social media. I'm sure most of you have social media, and you could be scrolling along, and a video will catch your attention more than text will. When we first started off doing social media, it was all, what can you say in a really witty post? That moved to pictures. It is now moved to video. Most of the things that are shared virally on social media is video. It's preferred and favored by people. It's also preferred by the platforms themselves. They get rated different as far as their algorithms go, and video gets weighted higher and more favorably. Then we also have theater advertising, which is really good if you have a local business. In-store video is good if you have a waiting area. So if you are a restaurant where people have to wait for their food, or maybe you're a mechanic or a doctor's office where you have a lobby that people wait for, having in-store video is particularly useful there to further communicate things about your brand, and again, to keep people entertain so that they're not sitting there, tapping their foot while they wait. Another use for video, outdoor. It is quickly replacing your average sign for signage. You'll see a lot of moving pictures. Now, usually when it's a signage, it doesn't go through this big 5-minute, speech, but it will be moving picture, because you can get a lot more communicated even through moving text or graphics, and it's also more eye-catching. Another use that you'll see is in event booths. If you remember back before the pandemic, when we actually had expos and people could go to industry conferences and that sort of thing and have a booth, having video at your booth, it's more communicative than asking somebody to read a brochure, but it's also more attractive to people that pass by. Next time you are at one of these events, which may be next year, if you'll notice, the booths that have some sort of video playing on their monitor will get more people stopping by their booth than the ones that don't. And that, of course, is why you're there, right? So video is much more attractive, much more alluring to people. Another very common thing that you will see is people using it in presentation. Again, that's because it's more effective, it's more communicative, and it's more modern than other uses. And then, of course, we have YouTube, which I've called out separately from social media, because YouTube is actually the #2 search engine that people use to get information on the internet. It's not Bing, it's YouTube, because people don't like to read. If they want to find something out, they're going to literally search for a video to tell them that information in the quickest amount of time and most communicative way possible. So again, another reason for video. And yes, Google owns YouTube, so Google has the #1 and the #2 search engine on the internet. Remember the days of Yahoo? All right, so is video cost effective? This is a question that I hear from people quite a bit. The cost and the availability of video has changed. It used to be that video was indeed too costly for small businesses to use, but production costs have come way down to the point that anyone can make a video now. Before, no one had the tools to do it, right? Now, it's not that people don't have the tools, it's that everyone doesn't necessarily have the skills to do it. So there's been a shift. Anyone can make a video because your phone more than likely does video. So now it's a question of how good are they at making video. So the same thing happened with print materials. Once technology moved from when you had to use a printing press at a print house to where you could have home and office printing, anyone could print a flyer or a piece of collateral. Then we discovered that some people just shouldn't. Lack of creative skill and being amateur, all of that started to really come into focus once the availability for people to do it themselves was there. The ability to print wasn't all that was necessary in making a flyer. However, it definitely helps with things that are not public facing. And things that are like teachers use it for their classrooms. It's been really great for them. It's been really great to be able to print out a proposal, that sort of thing, and things that aren't going to be brand related. Video is now very much the same way. Now it's a question of how well a video can be made. So it's skill-based instead of availability-based. Some things can be done in your home or in your office. And like printing, some things should be left for professionals to do. And we will talk about those, the difference in those things today. Now, the equipment that is needed. I was asked to talk about video equipment. So, what do you need to know about equipment? The first thing to know is that a camera is just a tool, just like a screwdriver or a hammer that a carpenter would use. And there are lots of different tools that are available for people to buy. There's your smartphone that I mentioned earlier. There's action cams. That's like a GoPro. Usually they're like a box. There's a DSLR. That's the one that looks like a traditional 35 millimeter camera, only it's digital. It's called a DSLR. There's drones that we use for aerial photography. Used to be we had to go up in an airplane. Now we can use drones that we have. And they come in all different variations as well. Then there are consumer cameras, video cameras, and then there are professional video cameras. But all of these things are just tools. Now, to kind of illustrate my point, does anybody remember or know the poem Touch of the Master's Hand by Myra Brooks Welch? For those of you that don't, I'll give you a little synopsis. The poem invokes the idea that there was an old violin that was up for auction, and the auctioneer was getting very low bids because it was a beat up old violin. So, $1, $2, $3, etc. Then an old man came forward from the back of the room, and he picked up the violin, spent a few seconds tuning it, and then he played this song that was as pure and sweet as the angels singing. And when the old man was finished playing, the auctioneer continued to ask for bids, and they came in thousands of dollars more. And then they asked him why the value of the violin had increased, and he replied that it was the touch of the master's hand. Now, the poet then goes on to compare this story to the souls of men and God's touch in their lives. But my point with this example, this story, is that the musician, the person using this tool of music, is what made it valuable. And it to others, it's a paperweight, it's a noisemaker, right? But the violin, like any of these cameras that I mentioned, it's just a tool, right? And tools are chosen for different reasons, and they have to be evaluated depending on why you need them. Now, general rules of thumb that can help you in thinking about your priorities for video equipment. And they are all tools, and they all have different skills associated with learning how to use them. But the importance levels vary. So these are in order of importance for you or your video crew or whoever it is that is going to make your video. The first most important thing is get the best camera that you can afford. Don't get something that you can't afford. Get something that you can afford. The best one that you can afford. Don't be a cheapskate. If you can afford a decent camera, get it. But if you can't, then whatever you can afford, that's what you're going to want to get. So the better the camera, the better. Second is you're going to need to get whatever audio equipment is going to be necessary for that camera. And that's going to change depending on what camera you get. So number 2 is going to be the audio equipment that you need. And the connectors are different. They make, if you're using your iPhone, for example, the audio quality that comes naturally on the phone is not great. But they do make, Rode makes a little bitty microphone that plugs into your phone that improves the quality of the audio for your smartphone. So you have to know what it is that you're going to need in the connections for that specific camera, because they're all different. All the cameras are different. So buy whatever necessary audio equipment you're going to need for the camera. The next is you're going to need lighting equipment based on whatever knowledge you have of how lighting works. And then after you have your first setup, get a variety of cameras for different jobs. Not all cameras do the same thing. So if you're building your ability to do more and more video, there are different cameras that can be used for different jobs. So you'll know what those are. Then there are different accessories that you can buy. that will increase your abilities with the camera, and that will increase your productivity with the camera. But my point with this list is this is the order of priority. Don't jump to buying a gimbal for your camera first, because that is the last item on this list. It's much more important for you to get a decent microphone. But more important than you getting a decent microphone is getting the best camera that you have. So that's what this list is for. It's a list of priorities. So that when you're building your in-house video production, this is kind of the checklist that you want to go by and what you need to do in which order. It doesn't do you any good to have 3 or 4 cameras, which is, number 4 down the list, if the cameras that you have aren't the best that you can afford. So your main camera that you're going to use needs to be the best one that you can afford, more than buying 2 that are lesser. Again, order of priority here. So let's move on. Some projects can still be done with less expensive equipment. Now, other projects are going to be held to a higher standard and should be done with more expensive equipment. That's going to require more skill. But as far as that piece goes, with today's lower cost, you can now hire professionals at a much more affordable rate than you could before. But some projects don't require that. So let's take a look. Some of the things that are can easily and acceptably be done on your own or with your in-house staff are things like live social media streams. Facebook has live, Snapchat has live, YouTube has live, Instagram has live. Those things are all things that you can do yourself. TikTok, something you can do yourself. Message videos, anything that is more temporary in nature, anything that is there for the moment and then you move on, are usually acceptable things for you to do on your own without a professional crew. Now, other projects that have a longer shelf life and are going to have a larger impact on your company's brand may need to be done by more of a professional. So website videos that are going to live on your site, advertisements, corporate videos, concept and short films, anything that's going to have that longer shelf life are things that you're going to want to consider having a professional do. So day-to-day stuff, you can likely do them on your own, while the more permanent, longer-lasting content that you are likely to be judged by in a more permanent fashion probably still need to be done by a professional. Now, even with DIY projects, there are still things that you're going to have to learn and that you're going to have to know. And not just how to use the equipment, like I mentioned before, but also how to do the craft that is filmmaking. So we'll talk a little bit about those as well. So some of the video guidelines that you need to know if you're going to do things by yourself. You're always going to want to make the best quality video that you can afford. Again, when I went back to the best quality camera, you want to make the best quality video that you can. But what you need to know is that there are many options and different types of video that are available. Some you don't even need a camera to make. So again, most affordable camera you can afford, if you can't afford the camera, there are videos that you can make without even a camera. And we'll discuss what some of all of these options are a little later. But with so many options, your videos don't have to be low quality just because they are lower budget. So you want to make the best quality video that you can. The next thing is you're going to want to remember your goal for video. You want to be what people search for, what they ask for. You want to provide what it is that they need to know. Present it in a way that's going to influence their preferences in the marketplace. That's why you're making a video for business. Now, if you're making it for personal reasons, these rules do not apply. You can make it for whatever you want to express yourself. But for business, you're more than likely going to want to be, if somebody searches for something, you want to be there. if they're asking for more information, or if they need to know something, that you need to find a creative way to present it in a way that's going to influence them to then choose you in the marketplace. Logistically, if you are considering doing video yourself, because I know a lot of you probably are, there are some things that you need to be aware of and some things that you need to be careful of when you're doing video for your business. So let's go through what some of those are. One thing that you're going to want to learn is frame composition. It's going to be a vital asset for you. And what frame composition is where things go within the frame. Frame composition can make or break a shot, even if it's a single shot that you're doing. And that's going to apply to everything from, you doing a video with your phone live. The composition is how things are set in the page. Again, something that you can look up for the Googles and on YouTube, and it's something that you're going to want to learn to do it yourself. The next thing to know is that several cameras and photos shoot 4K video footage. I know you've heard of 4K. A lot of people have 4K TVs now. But what people aren't aware of is that 4K footage is not an easy thing to handle because it's really large. The file sizes are really, really big. And a lot of people, they'll shoot 4K footage on their iPhone and then they can't get it off their phone. So there's certain things that you're going to have to know about how to handle 4K video footage if you're going to do something that is that high of quality. Now, do you have to do 4K all the time? No. You need to know, again, what you're doing, what the purpose of the video is, what the video is going to be shown on, so that you can then determine what it is that you're going to need. You see different things as far as the specs and things that people use change all the time. So you kind of need to know what it is that you need. And if you go out and you shoot a video with your phone, because that's the one I hear about the most often, and then they have this video that's great, but they don't know how to get it off their phone. There's extra software that you may need, make it easier to do. The length of the video is going to matter. Again, something that you're going to need to know if you are going to do it by yourself. The next thing is that editing and color grading takes skill. Now, a lot of consumer cameras take away control when it comes to color grading, so that you are limited in what you can actually do. And often it is perfectly good for a DIY project. With professional cameras, what we see in the video frame when we're shooting video, or when we put it in for processing in our software, is completely different than what you see on your iPhone. Your iPhone has a lot of the color grading taken care of. Your consumer phones have a lot of the color grading taken care of, and you're limited in how you can change that. What we see with professional cameras is a very flat image that we can tune the color depth and perception and vibrancy and all of that stuff ourselves to make it look better than you could in these consumer cameras. But one of the things you're going to have to understand if you try to do this on your own is that you will be limited in what you can do color grading if you have a lesser expensive camera. And if you don't, it takes a lot of skill to learn how to do that. It's not easy. That's why there's professionals that do it. So something else you need to know. The other thing is that you're going to want to know what to shoot and how to develop an engaging concept for your video. That is also a skill. There are professionals that have done these sorts of videos. They know what looks good because they've done so many of them. Whereas most business owners, you don't sit and think about, what would make a great video. When I look at a movie, for example, I don't just watch a film the way that most people do. I look at it and I see, oh, that's good composition, and the cinematographer did a good job here. And did you see the way that was edited? We look at things different than most people do. But developing that concept and knowing what to shoot is going to be something that you're going to want to consider as well. Now, requirements. I was asked to speak to requirements, and I'm going to do that in 2 different places. But for now, let's just say that TV commercials are starting to push people towards social media so that they can find unlimited video content. What does this have to do with requirements? Well, video advertising is generally limited to 15, 30, or 60 seconds in most cases. So you have to be able to tell everything that you want to say within a very short amount of time. So and you'll notice that with people that are good speakers. You sit down at a kitchen table and you have unlimited amounts of time to talk. You can really expand on what it is that you want to say. But if you are a speaker and you have 30 minutes to talk, you have to figure out what are the quickest ways and the easiest ways to communicate what it is you're going to say. Same thing in video. The shorter the video, it's actually more difficult to do rather than the other way around, because you have to get everything that you want to say communicated in a much faster time frame. But people are moving, they'll have commercials that are on TV that tell the first part of the story and then move it to social media where they can take longer to finish telling more of their story, because social media and internet content is not limited to the amount of space that you have, depending on what platform you host it on. You could have a lot more room. Also, with social media and internet content, you're not wedged in between your competitors the way that you are when you're doing advertising. When you're advertising, you have competitor, competitor. Or if it's not a competitor, it's a completely unrelated business. That's the way that advertising works. Everybody knows that. You've all seen the Super Bowl. But on the internet, it can all be you. There's no other distractions. Moving along. There are also certain types of content that work best creatively. There are 7 types of story that we find work best. You've probably heard that there's 7 different plots and just different ways to tell them. That's true. There's 7 different types of story that you're going to want to know in order to figure out from a content standpoint what it is, how you're going to be telling your story. Now, there are also things that you need to know about how you're telling your story. How you're telling your story is going to matter. It's going to matter more than what you are telling. What you can be saying can be very insightful and very great, and how you tell it can completely throw people off where they're not listening to you. So something else to know, how you're telling it does matter. You need to think about what it is you're going to be doing, and you need to understand the impact that is going to have on your brand the entire time. It's really easy for someone that is trying to do video for the first time to get really enthralled in the creativity of the project and forget about the fact that everything that you put out needs to be weighed against your brand image, because the video that you're making is not for self-enjoyment, it's for your business. And so whatever it says, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, is going to have an impact on your brand. And you don't want to get that wrong, and you don't want to hurt your brand. So something that you need to be aware of here as well. Again, lower cost means that you can afford to have professionals do it, where you might not have before. So you do not have to take it all on doing it yourself. I know I'm telling you a lot about how to do it yourself, but again, costs have come way down. It's not as scary as it used to be. You can have a professional help you with it, even if it's lower budget. If you have a smaller amount of money and you think, I only have this amount, I can't have a professional do it, ask them. There are so many different options that we can do video-wise that it would really surprise you. Now, the other thing, remember what I said, some things you can do for yourself. Maybe you need guidance from a marketing professional in order to do those things. But things like Facebook Live, Instagram stories, talk to somebody, they'll give you some ideas, some pointers, so you can bounce questions off, that sort of thing, and then you can shoot it yourself. If somebody wants to do a daily blog where they're on Facebook Live and they're talking about different things, you don't need a camera crew for that. You can do it. You may need some pointers on how to set it up and what it is you need to be saying and things that you need to be mindful of, because you're not a marketing professional. You're not a video professional. So you may need pointers in that, but you don't necessarily need an entire crew. There are things, again, that you can do yourself. So let's talk about the quality aspects of video again. So regardless of whether you're doing it yourself or you're hiring a professional, there are priorities that you need to be aware of. The first is that content is more important than the quality of your production. And what do I mean by that? Well, the storytelling, the creativity, how you're telling your story, that is more important than the quality of your production. Now, does that mean your quality should be bad? No. But as far as putting it on a priority, that's more important. Next most important thing, audio is the most important aspect of production, because things actually look worse if the audio is worse, regardless of whether it actually is a worse picture or not. Audio, for some reason psychologically, has a lot to do with what we see. So audio is the most important part of quality production. So that important microphone, something that you're going to want to think about. Lighting is the second most important thing, because bad lighting can destroy a professional image. You could have the best camera in the world. If your lighting is off, it can absolutely trash that image. So lighting is the next most important piece of quality production. And then you have the image, which is what most people think is first. And your image is often camera dependent, but that's actually third down the line. And then after that is the edit and the visual story crafting skills that come along with it. This has to do with the skills that are necessary in putting together the final product, which includes things like color correction, the flow of things, Foley, if you know what that is, music, the soundtrack that you're going to use, all of that, how you put things together. All editors have a style. If they don't have their own style, then they are adept in doing multiple different styles. And when I talk about style, if you look, one of the easiest things that I can point out to you is, if you remember the remake of Romeo and Juliet that had Leonardo DiCaprio in it, that had a definite style to it that you could see that was in how they crafted the photo. Deadpool had a definite style. The James Bond films had a definite style. So you have some that definitely have style to them, and then you have others like documentaries that are less style. But then we have Ken Burns, who added style to his documentary. So that's how you physically put together the picture. But that is literally last thing on the list as far as priorities are concerned. So let's move forward. I told you we'd talk about the different options and the different types of videos that businesses can have in their arsenal. So let's talk about those. Lots of different styles, different types of videos that can often overcome shortcomings that you may have in talent or skill, or can be used to save on cost, or for their effectiveness in different areas that you're going to use them. So let's talk about them. The first one is a slideshow. Slideshows are good for social media. They're good for signage. They don't generally have a lot of dialogue in them, but you can add voiceover to a slideshow. It is one of the most simple and cost-effective ways to do something that is still video content. It's still more communicative than others. So again, it's a video, but it's not difficult to do. It's not expensive to do. The next would be what's called a whiteboard explainer video. Now, these were very, very popular for a time. This is a video that explains and reveals information over time. They're called a whiteboard because they're usually white, and then they have somebody drawing with a marker, and you see hands. I'm sure you've seen it. So that was very popular for a time as well. That's another option. That's video that you don't have to go out and shoot with a crew, right? Then we have animation. There's several different levels of animation that involve different skills, different difficulty, and that have different impact on your audience. But animation adds excitement, it adds entertainment. You can add a human connection through using cartoons, depending on what level of animation you are looking at. And then we have interviews, which is probably the most common thing that you will see in business videos. They're good for testimonials. They're good for telling information. An owner interview will help to make a connection with customers where people feel like they know the owner. That's a very important aspect for communicating with your audience. So interviews are now the first thing that I've talked about that include actual camera footage, right? So interviews. The next is having a spokesperson. A spokesperson also adds a human connection to the brand, not just the information in the video, but the brand themselves. A lot of business owners understand the need for video, but they don't want to be on camera. A lot of people are camera shy, and you can have a spokesperson that stands for your brand that can do all of that for you. For example, Flo with Progressive. Progressive would not have a face if it wasn't for Flo, right? She is the spokesperson for that brand. She's not the CEO, she's not the owner, she's not the president, she is the spokesperson. So again, another type of thing. Others would be concept videos. These are more creative storytelling and more complicated to accomplish. And then you have various combinations of everything that I've talked about above. You can have a slideshow that actually includes interview footage. You can have an animation that's in the middle of a concept video. You can have different combinations of these things as well, which is why it's really hard for you to say, how much does it cost to make a video? Because there's so many different options that you can do. You have to say, this is my budget. What can we do with that? So that we can apply the correct sort of things for your needs in the marketplace. So lots of different types of videos, some that you may not have even thought about. Now, I said I'd come back to platform requirements. So here we go. Nowadays, people are consuming more and more video on the go. So it is imperative that your content becomes accessible on the right platforms and are formatted for the best user experience. So to that end, most video is going to be shot 16:9 or landscape. That is, if you have your phone, you turn it this way. So that's the same shape as a TV, a computer monitor. That's what should be used on websites, on YouTube, etc. However, Instagram and TikTok only use vertical videos because they are made to be seen on your telephone. So that's different formatting. That is 9:16. And they all, of course, have different length limitations depending on what the platform is that is specific to the media. Some allow 15 seconds, some will allow a minute, some will allow an hour, etc. So that's very specific to whatever platform you were talking about. But the main thing to know is that you need to use the correct format as far as sizing goes. Now, can you use a 16:9 video on Instagram? Yes, but it is not the best use of using video on Instagram. The best thing to do is to use vertical video. A lot of times when we make videos nowadays, we will make two different versions. One that's for a website or TV, and one that's for social media that is more vertical. We may shoot them separately. We may take the one video and completely reformat it for more effective use on the different social media platforms. Now, the other thing to know in this area of platform requirements is that 85% of video that is shown on social media is consumed with the sound off. So there are several ways to convince people to turn their sound back on. Grabbing their attention visually. You can also, prompt people to switch their sound on. But there are other things that you can do as well, which is you can use captions on social media relevant videos. You obviously don't want to do that for something that's going to be on TV because it's distracting. But you can do it on social media so that people can read it and then decide if they want to turn the sound on, right? The other thing that you need to do is make sure that your video, the concept, the storytelling, is going to make sense even without audio. That will help you become more successful on the social media platforms. A lot of times, the reason why people have their sound off is a lot of times they're looking at videos on their phone when they shouldn't be. So they're either in a meeting or some of you are probably on your phone now when you're supposed to be in the webinar, or you could be in church, or you could just be, you woke up before your spouse did and you don't want to wake them up, so you have the sound off. So there's lots of different reasons why people would do that. And there's different ways that we overcome that in producing video. So more things to be aware of. Okay, so let's talk about best practices now. Best practices using video. When you're making a video marketing campaign, you cannot assume that it is one and done. No. For a video marketing campaign, you need to do 2 to 4 videos per month for your website, vlog, social media, whatever it's going to be. Because search engines, like I mentioned before, like video, but they prefer updated web content over time. If you make something, stick it on your site, and then leave it there and never touch your site again, it's going to start falling down if it ever climbed at all. Websites, search engines like frequently updated content. The other thing is that social media platforms also enjoy frequently updated content. So I'm going to make one and that's it. Not good enough. You have to make multiple videos to touch people over time. So there's a frequency that you have to maintain on social media and your website in order to make best use of video. Now, there are ways to make that more efficient because you don't want to go out and shoot a video every week or so. One of the ways that we do this is we make more substantial and longer shoots. So it's more efficient for you to plan a more robust shoot and then parse out that content to individual pieces. What I mean by that is if you're going to shoot website videos, don't try to make them one at a time. You need to, when you meet with, because this is one of the things you need to do professionally, you need to meet with whoever's going to be in charge of the video production and plan out all of the ones that you're going to need, all the ones you can afford. Shoot them all at the same time because it is more cost effective to shoot it at one time than to come back and do different shoots and have to set up over and over again each time. Video shoots are one of the most expensive parts of the process, and doing it once for multiple pieces of content makes more sense than trying to do it multiple different times. So normally we try to shoot all the footage that we're going to need at one time, and then that footage is used to make multiple independent videos that we need. Now, we can then take those individual videos, right, and pare them down into small, bite-sized clips that can be used on social media. So in addition to the main video that you made, you can then take quotes from within that main video and use them in various links on your social media. So you have this one interview, right, that's 6 minutes long. Well, you could probably take 2 or 3 quotes out of that and make those individual clips that you can use in social media in several different ways. So again, that's ways that to update your content on a regular basis using things that you've already produced, that you've already shot. So again, something else to think about when you're looking at the most efficient use of your video that you are making. Now, the future. So as business owners, we have to look ahead and discuss the future. I think that, future-proofing your business is a big thing. So I think we've discussed the importance of video enough. Yes, it's important. It is imperative for your business in today's age. And as time marches on, we're going to see more continued use of video and the balancing of old ways of doing marketing and new ways of doing marketing. Because of the breadth of time, video is still considered a newer way of doing things. So you don't necessarily throw away the old, you just add new to it, something to think about. But there are two main areas that I think that we should be focused on knowing for the future. The first one is that while video is still new, the novelty of just having video is wearing off. It used to be, oh, you've got video, and that was all it took. More people are doing video, so now just having video isn't as exciting. Now it has to be good, right? So the quality of the content, the quality of the storytelling now matters more. So I think we're going to see a resurgence in classical marketing thinking as far as what we're doing. It used to be, oh my God, you've got a video. Wow. Again, the novelty of that, which was very attractive at one time, is wearing off as more and more companies start to do this. Now you're expected to have video. So things that we need to think of as far as classical marketing thinking. That's sound human-based research to better understand your customer. That's going to help you make better content, is understanding your customers and doing strategic work to better position your brand and uncover different insights through that research that we talked about. And also being relentless in your drive to have stronger creative work. So to be better at storytelling. Those are things to kind of combat the fact that this novelty aspect is starting to go away. Novelty was great when we had it, but again, it's starting to go away. So we need to understand that great ideas cut through the maze of all the competition that's out there. It creates great discussion. It creates great dialogue. And it gets shared, which is one of the great things about social media, is the ability for videos to be shared amongst other people that you might be able to influence with your brand. Now, sometimes your discussion can also polarize, and sometimes that is wanted. Like with Nike and Colin Kaepernick, the campaign that they did, it was meant to polarize people. That controversy then stepped up the responsiveness to the video one way or another in the marketplace. So it's okay to make content that's going to be polarizing if that fits with your brand. The values and the purposes that are going to build your brand, that's what you need to do. Now, again, just because you can shoot a video on your smartphone doesn't mean it's going to represent your brand well. It depends on your brand. True. Again, like I said, just because you can't shoot a video doesn't mean that it's going to represent who you are. That's something that you need to think about. Something else you need to know. Not all tools are created equally. Cheaper devices have more limitations, like I talked about with the color grading with consumer cameras. Being good is going to become even more important as businesses march on and the novelty starts to wear off. But you need to understand that sometimes when you're striving for greatness and you're striving to do it on your own, a lot of times your equipment can be limiting you with what you can't do. So don't beat yourself up about it. It's just you cannot do that on whatever it is you're wanting to do on your own. Either way, number one, the idea is that the novelty of just having video is starting to go away. And now it's going to be how good is the video that you are making. Number two, innovation and continuously pushing new technology are going to continue to make our creative ideas better and different. For example, mobile video right now, the majority of business-related commercial video is watched on your smartphone. Let's see, Adweek said that there was an 88% growth year to year on time spent watching videos on your phone. And a lot of that has to do with accessibility. It has to do with the fact that your phone is always with you. The internet is in your pocket at all times. So a lot of mobile video that you need to be aware of when you're making your content. The other thing is that TikTok is the fastest growing app in history, and it is short form video, and it's taking over the world right now. Because of that, we see that major players are starting to introduce vertical video formats. YouTube, which has never done vertical video, is looking at making a format for that. Facebook's doing it. IGTV is Instagram's version of doing that for longer form videos. Netflix is coming out with vertical video for previews. Of course, they can't change all of Hollywood, but the previews that they do that you're meant to digest via your phone are in vertical format. So it's a perfect example of the platforms, looking at the behaviors of people and changing what they're doing to maximize that user experience. The next thing as far as pushing technology is augmented reality. AR, VR, which is virtual reality, and then MR, which is mixed reality, are dramatically changing how we display and convey information. And we will start to see this more and more and more in the future. My team has already signed up for Adobe certification classes in AR technology. It's not quite made it mainstream yet, but it's coming. So again, we're talking about the future. So this is something that you need to be aware of that's coming. And you may not know what sorts of things that I'm talking about, so I'm going to show you some examples. Google's newest project is called AR Street View. And this feature has it where it's in Google Maps, and it will help you follow directions in real time. It will also show you, let me see if I can put my cursor on the screen. I don't know if you guys can see this, see my cursor, but if you look right over here, just in case you can, this is not an actual sign. This is Google putting that in there. If you notice, it has the Google reviews information there, because Google physically knows where that business is. And so they've put this augmented reality information in there so that as you're going down the street, following your Google Maps, you can see a business and there's a link to the business right there in front of your face. That is part of AR that is coming. You can also see this where it's telling you to turn. There's a little fox, you can follow the fox. This is cute things that they're doing with it. But that's part of some of the future that you can see when I'm talking about video. Another one is in terms of advertising. Facebook is testing AR ads and beta as we speak. Like this one that you see on the screen is for Michael Kors. He has a campaign that allows you to virtually try on sunglasses before you buy them. Just like, you've seen Snapchat filters. These are really popular. It's popular on TikTok too. Same thing, but with their product. So businesses, again, are tapping into other things that are behaviors that their consumers are doing. This is very good for clothing. Change sunglasses, put a hat on, change your clothes, whatever. But lots of different ways that businesses are trying to figure out how to use AR in order to keep up with technology pushing us along. Next thing is voice and visual search. Now, we've seen a shift towards Hey Siri, Alexa, and Echo type devices. And we're going to start to see this more and more in search options, making it easier and more accessible than ever for people to get information. We've seen 33% of all searches already are voice search. That's up 20% from last year. 72% of all U.S. consumers use it. 51% of all shoppers use it, people that are known for shopping. 71% prefer voice search. Again, instead of typing, instead of reading, you just tell your phone, hey, where is blah, 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 and it shows it to you. That is voice search. That is coming. Not just on your phone, but again, Alexa, Echo, you can do these things at home as well. And browser-based voice search is coming. It's already available in some devices. You know, Snapchat and Amazon are already starting to make voice-based search and e-commerce options. Google, Amazon, Facebook, they're already using voice to learn what you like and serve you advertising because of it. But eventually it will become less eavesdropping and more direct, more of something that you're literally doing on purpose. Sorry for the big brother scare there, but it's true. I'm sure you can look it up and find out more about it. Visual search is also very interesting. With visual search, if you want to know more about something, you take your phone, you take a picture of it. You want to find out the price of something, or you want to buy something, you take a picture of it. And then Google, who's leading the charge here, will find wherever that is for sale on the internet so you can buy it, because they can recognize whatever it is you took the picture of. That is something else that's coming that you're going to need to be in their database for. TikTok in China already is using facial recognition to search its user database. Now, you know Facebook has this technology too, where they can suggest who you're going to tag. In China, TikTok is already using this as a way to search people. So you have a video, different people are in it. You can literally click on the people and search wherever they are else on the app. Again, not in the U.S. app. It's in the Chinese one. So the internet is going to continue to grow in importance. And companies are going to continue to break down the divide between digital and physical delivery. We'll see less and less physical stores and quicker e-commerce delivery. Everyone and everything is being connected online. Stores like Amazon are taking over the retail experience. The internet has become increasingly more important. If you can imagine, it's going to become even more important. Television broadcasts are already moving to online streaming. HBO and Cinemax now have a streaming app for original content. They are preparing for television broadcasts to go away, for it to move to the internet. And this pandemic, where everybody absolutely dove into the internet and streaming video, just proved that they were right. So something else to think about as far as the future goes. Now, when asked about the success rates of video across all platforms, 79% of the respondents to the Wazoo survey reported having been successful using video for their business. On TikTok specifically, 66% reported success. Now, many people consider TikTok to be offering untapped potential, suggesting that now, not later, is the time to begin leveraging TikTok in video. Now, you've heard me talk about TikTok a good bit. I've talked about it a few times during this. My next webinar, which is September 24th, is going to be on TikTok and IG Reels, which is Zuckerberg's answer to TikTok, and how you can use those platforms specifically for business. Now, this is not a SCORE-sponsored webinar, but if you're interested and you want to attend, you can go to bzacharybennett.com/events to sign up for it. We're going to be talking about these platforms specifically. We're going to be talking about the controversy surrounding the possibility of it being banned and the Chinese connection, which is what's held a lot of people off from entertaining the idea of doing it. We're going to talk about the historical growth that these platforms have had. Again, I told you it is the fastest growing app that's been in history, and why businesses might want to consider them, as well as how businesses can use them as well. So you can take a screenshot of this now, or you can make note after the webinar to go and register if you want to know more about how to use short form video, TikTok, or IG Reels. I have an entire webinar that's going to be dedicated to that platform coming up relatively soon. Now, before I take questions, and Mark, if you want to get ready there, we're going to be doing a drawing for my book, kind of a way for me to give back to the community and those of you that are participating here today. But you will have to register for the drawing. So if you go to bzacharybennett.com/webinar, I believe Mark should put that up in the on the screen there in the chat, so you can click on it. You'll be asked for a code when you go there. The code that you're going to want to use is video. That code will be used to identify that you came from this webinar so that you can be entered into today's drawing. So again, I believe Mark is going to put that up in there. This is a copy of what the book looks like for those of you that can see me. And I will be sending out different versions of that. It's available in paperback, ebook, and audio format. So we'll be giving away a couple of different ones. Now, Mark, if you have any questions for me, we can move into Q&A here.
Sure, Zachary. Thanks very much for taking us through this informative presentation. We do have quite a few questions from the audience. So let me start with the first one from Carolina. She asked, how about teleprompter? Do you use it when you create a video?
Teleprompters are great. They are particularly great for those of us, I use one all the time, that can't remember scripts. So yes, you can use a teleprompter. They make several different versions of them. You don't have to get the big ones that the studios use. They have them. The ones that we use are actually adapted from an iPad. Teleprompters are great. Now, you need to be aware when you use a teleprompter that the camera is usually inside the teleprompter. So with that being the case, your audio is going to be blocked by the teleprompter. So you're going to need a separate microphone outside from the camera in order to use it. But yes, once you figure out how to use a teleprompter, they are absolutely remarkable, and I love them. So yes.
Thanks, Zachary. Next question is, what apps do you recommend for videos? I use a GoPro app now.
Are we talking about different programs for editing video, maybe? Or for recording? For recording, if you're using, well, whatever came with your device that you're using. So if you're using a GoPros we have don't really, I guess you mean to get them off get the film off the camera. Yes, you can use whatever's going to get the film off the camera because we don't edit in that software. So now if you're talking about for your phone, there are special apps that give you more ability as far as recording in your phone goes. What we do at times when we use video on our phones is we just use what came there because we have other tools to do the other things instead of trying to stretch the phone to do things beyond what it's meant to do. Now, if you're talking about editing, that's completely different. There are tons of different programs. I know they're called apps nowadays. Thank you, Microsoft. But tons of different programs that you can use, software that you can use to edit. We are an Adobe family here, so we use Premiere Pro, which is also used in Hollywood. We also have Final Cut that we use. which is from Avid Family, which has a long history of success as far as software goes. And then there's also something called DaVinci Resolve. DaVinci Resolve is very powerful. It's also free, but there will be a steep learning curve in figuring out how to use it. It's great. We use it a lot for color correcting before we actually use it to go into Premiere Pro, which is the Adobe software. But it's not going to be something that's easy for you to operate. And then there's lots of other things, depending on what it is you're trying to do with it. There's consumer-based things that are easier but very limited in what you do. So there's lots of tools out there. Just find one that you're comfortable with. The professional ones, they mostly all do the same thing.
Thanks, Zachary. One thing to add to this, obviously, is yes, there is lots of tools out there, but for do-it-yourself purposes, you could spend hours or days in mastering a video editing program. Might not get a professional that's doing this for a living, right, and has that expertise, because it's often very frustrating to not only install it, but get familiar with the program and utilize it, and you probably lose a few hairs in the process. Right, Zachary?
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of people want to do it themselves because they want control, which I understand. I am also a control freak type of person. But as far as efficiency for a business, a lot of times when you're first starting out, you have to do everything yourself because it's all you can afford. But as you grow, it is often a lot smarter to hire professionals that already are skilled at whatever it is that you're wanting them to do, rather than you take the time to buy the software, download it, buy the equipment, learn how to edit it all, learn to make a good. That's not efficient use of your time if you're trying to run a restaurant or trying to run a manufacturing facility. You should be spending time on your business. Let somebody else that's skilled in doing those things do those things. So yeah, absolutely. But for those of you that want to do it, there are things that you can do on your own. But I recommend, again, that to be people that are just starting their business and really don't have another option. If you do have another option, it's usually smarter to have somebody professional do it, because they're going to do it better than you. They're going to do it faster than you, and you're not going to have to buy equipment that you're not going to need other than for that one thing.
Exactly. So next question comes from Bennett. How do you choose a videographer to work with? How do you know where can I find a good one? Where do you look them up? I mean, what type of work do they do? Can you help us with that?
One of the things that you should do is look at their portfolio. The only thing that really matters is their end result. It doesn't matter if it's going to take them 15 years to do it. 15 years is too long. It doesn't matter if it's going to take them longer because they're less experienced, if the end result is still going to look good, as long as you don't mind waiting. So look at their portfolio is good. Asking them certain questions. There's certain equipment that you might need. But the best thing to do is to contact cinematographers, videographers, marketing agencies. If you're a business, contact a marketing agency, and they will be able to go through and tell you, tell them what you're looking for, what your goal is. They'll be able to go through and tell you exactly what it is that you might need, things that you might not have ever heard of. But as far as hiring a cinematographer directly yourself, the best thing to do is to look at their portfolio. And as far as, where are they? Google is your friend. Look for video production companies that are near you is a way to do it. There's not really a concrete place to go for that. Do not go to Fiverr. But you can you can look and start calling people, go to websites, look at them, look at their work, talk to them, and make sure. Facebook is kind of scary with this too. There's places on Facebook that you can go, but there's a lot of people nowadays in Facebook groups that promise things that they can't deliver on, which is why you have to see their portfolio, why you have to know the questions to ask, and be confident that they're going to be the right guy for whatever job it is that you need. So there's my answer to that one.
Thank you. Zachary, one of the things that didn't come up in your presentation is the doodle videos. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them. It's like a caricature that was being drawn on a whiteboard. And I've seen them before, and they pop up whenever I look for something now on the web. What do you think of them? How effective are they? Are they sexy or not in or past prime time?
Those are, I did mention them, but you just didn't know what they were called. They're the whiteboard explainer videos. That's what those are.
Right.
And they were extremely popular for a time. Now they're kind of out of fashion, but people still watch them. They're still very effective. And the good thing is they're less expensive than a lot of other things. So if you're going to use that, I would use it because of a cost reason. But as far as being new and inventive, they are not. People are kind of tired of seeing them. Now, there are things similar to that through animation that you can do, which animation usually adds more color and more moving pieces as opposed to moving static pieces. But the whiteboard explainer videos, like you're talking about, they're still available. They're still usable. They're very cost effective, but they're not as effective with the public because they're kind of several years ago.
Thank you. Now, Zachary, what are some of the considerations when producing a video, let's say for your website, webpage, or for Facebook or any of the social media platforms? They can be quite weighty, from my understanding is, and you don't want to wait 10 seconds or longer, whatever, or 5 seconds for that video to load, right? I mean, yes, video is great, but there's probably some parameters or considerations for the length of the video, the size itself, because that impacts the loading of the web page or of the Facebook page. Do you have some recommendations to address these?
I do. I recommend you host it on YouTube. If you host it on YouTube, you will not have that problem. Because what YouTube will do is they will load your video in a low resolution, and then as your connection is better, they will increase the resolution, or you can actually change the resolution yourself as the user to make it a more quality. But by that time, the loading and the buffering and that sort of stuff has already been done, if you're doing it for a website. So where you host it is going to matter directly with that. The other thing that you had mentioned, which is talking about size. If you're doing it for Facebook or for something that is going to be on your phone does not need 4K footage to receive it. A lot of people are wireless. They're using their cell phone service. And if you're showing a video not using YouTube, because YouTube has kind of conquered that issue. But if you're trying to serve one up directly from your own hosting, yes, you're gonna have a problem if the file is too big. So you can lower it to whatever you think your users are going to experience that video on. So for mobile versions of a website, we use videos, if we're not using YouTube, that are much smaller. 720 resolution is perfectly fine for a phone. It's not okay for a monitor, but it's okay for a phone. So when you're doing the mobile version of something, you can use a different resolution, which will make it load faster than otherwise. But my number one recommendation, again, is to use YouTube, use Vimeo, use one of them. Because they've kind of handled that. Now, if it still doesn't come across fast, that's probably your connection, your internet connection, which is completely, I mean, you can help everybody's internet connection. But YouTube has done a really good job of fixing the serving up video issues. Now, if you're doing a background video in your website design, that sort of thing, that's usually not YouTube. And there's several different versions that you can put into the code, depending on what people are watching the website, viewing the website from. So that's web design stuff. That has to do with if it's this size screen, serve this video. If it's an Android, use this. If it's that sort of thing. That's all web design programming stuff. So there are ways around that, but Number one thing I would say is use YouTube. A lot of people don't like YouTube because it's got YouTube's branding on it, but guarantee you the public doesn't care.
Okay, great. So is there actually a cost for a business, not an individual, if I sort of host my video at YouTube, right? It's not the same as individually, but it's used for my business, and there might be lots of traffic. Is there a cost associated? Will YouTube charge me?
No. YouTube gets paid by advertising, and if you that is one downside to YouTube, is they'll put ads at the links to additional ads at the end of your video, but which you can control somewhat. But as far as it costing money to host there, no, it's free. They get paid because of people posting videos there. You're providing them a service. You're giving people a reason to come to their site to see their advertising. So they're not charging you at all. You put content on there. They say, thank you very much. I will put advertising with that. And now I have a product. So no, they don't charge you. Now, other ones that don't have their branding in it, like Vimeo, which is YouTube's second cousin twice removed, they have a version where you can host via Vimeo, pay for it, and then you don't have any of the branding stuff. So the clients that I have that don't want YouTube's branding, I use Vimeo, but then they have to pay a yearly amount to get rid of Vimeo's branding. But YouTube, for the most part, no, it's free.
Okay, does YouTube hosting or linking to the video on YouTube also work for your social media platform like Facebook or TikTok? Does that work, or do they have to be hosted at Facebook?
It works for Facebook. It does not work for TikTok. It does not work for Instagram. It will work for Facebook. Again, you have to know the different platforms. Facebook, it's changed the way it works. It used to be that you put the YouTube integration in there and it would just play like a normal video. Now it doesn't. Now you have to click it and then it will play. So that's different. But yes, YouTube will work in Facebook.
Okay, thanks. I'm just trying to catch up with some of the questions came in while we were talking here. In order to hire video photographer, what are some of the three things that I would want to ask them, right? In a short, obviously you interview them, you want to make sure that they are qualified and will produce the output that you envision, but what are the top three things that you want to ask them?
Experience. You want to know what experience they have, if they've ever done a business-related video before, because that's going to matter. It's different than creative. It's like when you're writing a book for business, completely different than writing a book for fiction. So you want to make sure that they've done the same type of video that you're looking for before, that they know how to do it. And then one of the things you're going to look for is what questions they ask you. If they're not asking you about your brand, if they're not asking you about your goals, if they're not asking you about your target audience, then they're not a good, they don't know what you're doing. So they're not a good, well, it doesn't matter how good they make video, they're not asking the right questions. They're not going to put the thought into what the video is being used for and making sure it's representative of you. That's a problem that a lot of people have when hiring directors and people that do creative things, is they are looking at it as a creative piece. As a business, it's not just a creative piece, it's a marketing tool. So we want to make sure it accomplishes the right things. So there's things that they need to know, but I would wait and see if they ask you. Because if they don't ask you, there's a problem. It means they've never done it before. So that's one thing. But as far as asking them, what equipment do they use? What experience do they have? And what can they show you are the best things. The other thing is you're going to want to provide them with a budget and make sure that they can work within that budget. Don't go up to them and say, I want a video, how much does it cost? Because it can cost anything, depending on what all they put into it. The best thing to do is say, this is the budget I have. What can you do for this budget? What are other things that you've done for this budget, so you can look at their work?
Okay, great. Thank you. One last question from Melanie. She has been told or advised that a 15-second video is ideal, and having a longer video, 30 seconds, 60 seconds, is overkill because people do not watch till the end. But at this other hand, I want to show them more about my product, my business, etc., my service. So how do I get them to, how can I share more, right? About given the fact that they don't want to watch 60 seconds of video. So what are some of the techniques that you might recommend?
Okay. Whoever told you that is being very specific for whatever they're telling you that for, which I'm afraid I didn't get in the question. If you're using a video for an advertisement, you have to say what you need to say within 15 seconds because they're scrolling. And if you don't grab their attention that fast, you're right, they're not going to watch it till the end. But what's going to make them watch it is the storytelling that you're doing being creative and engaging in something they want to watch. So now it's not just a video, it's your video. Is your video good enough for them to watch? Is it engaging? Is it, that sort of thing. But for advertising, you can grab them with a little piece and then push them to the longer video where they want to get more information if they're the right people for you, which is another thing to realize. A lot of times the statistics that you see on Facebook and on YouTube of people that didn't watch all the way through, they may not have been your customer. So who cares if they watched it all the way through, right? But you want to make sure that the people that you want to watch it through are engaged in doing it. And that has to do with the content that you're making. Have it be creative, have it be entertaining, have it be interesting. And the way that you present it makes them want to stay until the end. You don't want them to walk out of the movie theater. But to do that, it has to be targeted towards the customer. You have to know them, know what they want to see.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think that when it makes sense to engage a professional. But if you looked at a movie or some advertisements, take notice of how long each scene is. It's typically like a couple seconds, and then it switches into another focal point, and therefore it's not the same boring sort of like monotonous presentation. It switches back and forth, right? So that is part of the editing piece, not just the videotaping piece, and that's where you really need a professional that can edit this all together, I think. And that's what, in my view, makes a great movie, makes a great advertisement, because it keeps you on attention. You don't really know what's next. You sort of like switch back and forth.
Yeah, it's like what I said earlier. It's not what you're saying as much as how you're saying it. Because you could say something that's really great content, but if it's not being portrayed in a way that is engaging to them, it doesn't really matter what you've said, because they're not going to watch it till the end. So that a very good illustration of that point. Yeah.
All right, Zachary, I think we got all our questions answered here. I want to thank you for providing this expertise here, for sharing the expertise in your presentation. Thank you very much, Zachary. I want to remind all our attendees, when you end the session, the webinar session, there will be a link presented to you. Click on that link. That link brings you to a survey, and you can rate us and tell us how much you like this webinar. And that will also allow us to send you the material that Zach has provided for you. So please make sure that you click this link. I also encourage you to come back to another webinar. We have actually one this Friday. So we have typically 4 to 6 webinars a month. Check out our calendar on northmetroatlanta.score.org. Come back often, check out the webinars. We hope to see you in the future. Please give us your survey. And again, thank you for attending today. Thank you, Zachary. Thank you for all the attendees. And please also contact SCORE if you require mentors, right? Again, that link at the end will allow you to sign up for a SCORE mentor that can help you with getting your business started or helping you to charge up your business to the next level. Thank you very much for attending. Have a great day. Stay dry, and hope to see you back soon. Thank you very much.
Thanks.